So thanks for coming. Yes, my name is Alan Noon. I'm the lead evangelist over the Americas for Epic Games. And today I'm going to talk about enabling creators and the Unreal ecosystem. So the question is, what is the Unreal ecosystem? Well, besides the engine, there are a number of other resources, programs, and initiatives that we have shared with you. And collectively, we refer to these as the Unreal ecosystem. So for this talk, we'll be talking a little bit about the history of Epic Games and how we enable creators from the very beginning. We'll talk about the evolution of the Unreal Engine, and then beyond that, the Unreal ecosystem, which is really the meat of the talk here today. And then we'll talk a little bit about Unreal Indies as well. So first up, Epic Games. So from the very beginning, today we might see Epic Games as, this large company, right? We've had much success in recent years and probably viewed as this sort of a behemoth type of organization. But really the start of the company is very, very indie. We started out very, very small. And from that beginning, we've sought to enable developers in a variety of different ways. So the company originally started in '91 as Potomac Computer Systems by Tim Sweeney, working from his parents' basement. And a little bit of a fun fact here. So there's a small conference room at headquarters named Tim's Basement, very small meeting room, but it's a nice little reminder of how the company got its start. And so Tim had developed a product called ZZT, which he released as shareware. And shortly after that, he renamed the company Epic Mega Games. So at the time, his competition had these very large, grandiose sounding names. In order to kind of have some of that cachet, he went ahead and named it Epic Mega Games because it sounded big, as he said, even though he was only the sole employee. All right, and this is a look at ZZT. So it might not look like a whole lot today. And quite honestly, back then in the early 90s, there were games that looked a little more technologically advanced than this. But what was important about this, why ZZT became popular, was because of its integration of an object-oriented scripting language. So this allowed the player base, the community, to get involved in a way that went beyond just playing the game. Players could extend and create all new types of game types. And while doing research for this presentation, I recently learned that there was a contest held and the best player created worlds were included in the game. And then I found out that 6 of those applicants actually ended up becoming employees of Epic. And another fact, the final copy of ZZT shipped in late 2013. So that's quite the long tail there. And afterwards, we moved on to Unreal Tournament. And the interesting thing about the Unreal Tournament game is that it also shipped with the level editor and Unreal script, continuing Epic's trend of openness and sharing. So players could extend the game through modding using the same tool set that the game itself was built on. And so we saw all kinds of brand new innovations, right? Like new levels, weapons, vehicles, game types, etc. And so players became modders, and these modders were then taking their first steps to becoming bona fide developers. And so you may have heard of Psyonix. They have a game called Rocket League, which was pretty insanely successful, actually. So Rocket League started out as a product called Supersonic Aerobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars, which itself was spawned from mod work done in the Unreal Tournament engine. A team of college students had gotten together and started modifying Unreal Tournament to include vehicles, and things just took off from there. And then in the early 2000s, modern GPUs brought forth a brand new era of high-end graphics. Graphic fidelity made a massive jump, and Unreal Engine 3 was there at that time. So it brought forward the idea of level editing tools and Unreal script from Unreal Tournament, but also had a number of other new features, such as the material editor and our particle editor called Cascade, and then Kismet, which was our first steps into visual scripting. And then Matinee was another tool that was also visually oriented in nature. So formerly, where these different aspects of game development were handled by programmers, now anybody on the team could jump in and get started developing these things, really freeing them up. So the editor dramatically improved workflow, and with that, adoption and usage of the engine really started to take off in AAA game development, and sort of also that mid-tier that kind of existed back in the day as well. And then we released the free version of UE3 called Unreal Development Kit, also known as UDK. And while UE3 was largely known as the shooter engine, it became much easier to develop new types of games and inspired hundreds and hundreds of new developers to take the plunge into game development. And then with UE4, an even bigger effort was made to make game dev even more accessible. So it was now even easier to make all different types of games. So the concept of projects, templates, and content packs were introduced. And then even more importantly, Blueprint takes the visual scripting concepts of UE3's Kismet and really expands upon that in a great way. So now entire games can be made without a single line of code, enabling everybody to become a developer. And the new licensing model meant that the engine was completely free to download and start using. And also source code was freely available as well. And if you look across social media, Twitter, Facebook groups, etc., you can see that amazing, amazing things are being made with UE4. And then we should mention Fortnite in this as well. So with the success of Fortnite, as we go out there and we visit different studios, we constantly get asked, what is the secret sauce that Epic has in our game that we're holding back from the rest of the development community? And really, there are no secrets whatsoever. So the answer is, if you want to know what's in the engine, go ahead and download Fortnite every couple of weeks and give it a play. And all that new stuff that you see in there will be coming to the engine very soon. And so the question is, what is all this reflection all about? What am I trying to impress upon you here is that from the very humble beginnings of Epic Games, enabling creators through the sharing of tools, technology, and knowledge has been part of the company's DNA. Okay, so let's talk about the Unreal ecosystem. Because when you download Unreal, not only do you get this great technology that's used to make all of these great games, but there's a number of other services, resources, and initiatives that can help you as you're developing your titles. Some of these you might not be aware of. And so for the purpose of the talk, I'm going to be referring to those as the Unreal ecosystem. This is everything outside of the engine that is provided. So we'll talk about Epic Games Publishing, Epic Games Store, online services, mega grants, the marketplace, the support channels, and source code. All right, Epic Games Publishing. We recently announced our publishing efforts. And like Tim says there, we're building the publishing model that we always wanted for ourselves when we were working with publishers in the past. And so what does that mean? We provide full creative freedom and ownership of IP, so developers retain all the rights to their properties, and they can continue expanding upon those properties however they see fit, even if our relationship doesn't continue forward in the future. So fully funded projects will cover all development costs, 100% of developer salaries, all the market expenses, QA, localization, marketing, etc. And 50-50 profit sharing. So developers will earn their fair share for their work. And once costs are recouped, developers earn at least 50% of all profits. And we're starting small. We have a few choice developers that we've gotten into partnership with here. We're going to grow this slowly. We're going to make sure that we get everything right with this publishing. And more info is going to be forthcoming. But you can see who we're working with. Gen Design, who did The Last Guardian, Playdead, famous for Inside and Limbo, and Remedy Entertainment, who recently released Control. Okay, so we can talk about the store now. In today's age, we don't feel that the 70-30 split is equitable. Back in the day when online storefronts first becoming a thing, this split was probably fine, right? There were all kinds of unknowns, infrastructure had to be built out, risks need to be taken. And it was a lot better than the deal that developers used to get back in the days of brick and mortar and shipping on cartridges and CDs. But a lot has changed since then, and online storefronts are pretty much the norm. And we find ourselves at Epic to be in a position to try some new things. And so with the game store, developers are going to earn 88%. And we feel this is much more fair, much more equitable, and it puts more money back in the hands of developers and allows them to create a sustainable business. All right, so the store launched December 6th, 2018. So it's a bit of just over a year old there. And so far it's been very successful for developers selling through the store. Of course, everybody wants to know when they can get on the store, but for now, we're still building out some of the tools and functionality needed before we open up the doors much wider. And so the strategy for us today is that we're focusing on exclusives in order to grow a healthy, sustainable audience, and then provide the best possible experience for developers and consumers alike. Okay, so there is the store page. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you're going to see that there's an application there. So even though we have our highly curated list of games on the store at the moment, if you're working on a project that you think might be suitable for the store, you can fill out that application, which we can take a look at here. And so we're just looking at a little bit of contact information, description of the game, and tell us about your team, your project. And if you can, like, please include a video. So that is the most important. We get a ton of applications. So if you're going to apply, just please be patient. Okay, so we can talk about online services. So during the course of developing our own games, we've had to solve a number of tough problems. Networking is not easy, right? And so now we're sharing all of that tech that we developed with everybody else out there in the world. It is a C++ SDK that works across any engine, any platform, and any store. And currently the UE4 integration is available, and support for other engines is on the way. So the features that we have available right now are game analytics, which allow you to store gameplay data and get a insight into player behavior. And from there, you can go ahead and tune your attention and engagement. We have dashboards that allow you to visualize and interpret the data in real time. And also we have a ticketing system. So the customer support tools enable you to track and provide high quality personalized support. And you can see some of the features coming soon there. Player rating system, where devs can see both positive and negative feedback directly from the players. Communications, in-game comms between players across any platform. Parties, of course, allowing players to group up and play together. And then we have our overlay on the way, which is a unified UI for friends and other features available to players across different games and different engines. So we built these services for Fortnite, and we also rely on these same services for our store and our engine. And thanks to our good fortune, we're in a position to give them away for free to developers everywhere. There's great overview information and an FAQ at the URL there. And there's a ton of great information within the docs about online services as well. So I highly recommend you look at that if you're interested in learning more. All right, Epic Mega Grants. So originally there was a program we called Unreal Dev Grant a few years ago, and it was a $5 million fund that we gave away. It was very successful. We saw lots of really great stuff being made. And so now with our fortune, our good fortunes, we can really expand upon this program. So we started Unreal Mega Grants. And so now the fund is $100 million to be distributed over the next 5 years. And basically, if you have a great project and could use a little bit of extra financial support, then you can go ahead and apply. Now, it's important to note that this program is not intended to fund the entirety of your project's development, but it is there to provide a small boost to keep you going so that you can get over whatever immediate financial hump is in your future. So if you have a great Unreal Engine game in development, you should obviously apply, but keep in mind that there are some other categories that we can award grants through as well. So educational initiatives, open source projects, et cetera, et cetera. And when we're talking about educational initiatives, we're not just talking about projects attached to established learning institutions like universities or colleges. So for example, if you're creating Unreal Engine tutorials on YouTube or something, or Twitch, you may qualify. Perhaps you need a new capture rig or microphone or soundproofing tiles or whatever it is, you can apply for a grant under the educational category. And then open source as well. Recently, we awarded Blender Foundation with a nice little grant for their work that they've done into the design and evolution of Blender. So if you perhaps have some cool plugin that generates really interesting content or improves workflow, that may qualify under the open source category. We also have categories for media and entertainment. So those of you not in game dev, or if you have friends outside of game dev, they might be able to apply under those categories. All right, so some tips for mega grants. Give your project a recognizable name. So this is important because at Epic, the team that evaluates the mega grants is distributed across many different offices. So if the team can converse and communicate about your game with a recognizable name, they can attach to that, right? Some of these conversations happen in the hallway, some of them over email, etc. But yeah, tell us about your project, tell us why you're compelled to pursue it, and tell us what separates it from all the other projects out there, and have you scoped the project appropriately? Tell us about your team, how many people do you have? And what's the breakdown of disciplines across that team? And also your timeline. What kind of milestones are you looking at? Shows that you've thought through the development process, and at least the best of your ability. It can be difficult to lay out the entire project timeline, but it shows that you've thought about it at least. You have some idea. Think about how much money you could use, and tell us how you would use it as well. Perhaps you're going to be using that money to purchase some content packs, or you want to hire some extra programming support. Just let us know how you're going to use it. And a playable build is great, but can be challenging for us at Epic to go through them all. So more importantly, please include a link to a video. That's like the most important thing. All right, and there's the URL for links to the Mega Grants program, and you'll see the application on that page. All right, the marketplace. So there's 9,000 different content packs available on the marketplace. It's all high quality content. It's a great way to spin up new prototypes with this really great looking stuff. Also in addition to that, some of the most popular games on the planet have shipped with content actually in those titles. So marketplace submissions are curated as we are looking to keep the bar high. We want to have a certain level of quality of all of the content that's out there. And support. So if you are operating under the EULA, which everyone that downloads the engine and agrees to, you are, Answer Hub is the community-driven support structure. It has a searchable history. We also have our forums. There's lots of really great developers out there, really strong community willing to jump in and help other folks out. And we have social media as well. So we have our official Twitter handles. And so the official Twitter handle of Epic Games is very developer-centric. And so the content that account shares is, it aims to provide value to other developers. So do not expect them to retweet your game's announcement or Kickstarter or anything like that, right? But on the evangelism team, we have a little more leeway there. We have our personal accounts that we quite often use for business. And we can do a little bit more of that promotion, but please note that this is not an invitation to blow up our DMs with, again, your Kickstarter or what have you. If you just use your hashtag appropriately, we should be able to see those come across our feed. And of course, Twitch, we have Inside Unreal, which is our weekly show in which we do an hour, 2 hours of developer interviews and demonstrations and all those good things. And as far as community goes, we have, there's a few different groups out there that are doing cool stuff. The Unreal Engine's developer Facebook group is really awesome. I like that one because it provides a really great view into what's going on there in the entire world. And the folks that run that group also run the Unreal Engine Jobs Facebook group as well. So that's really good if you're looking for folks to hire or you're in the market to be hired. I should mention Unreal Slackers Discord, an awesome Discord channel that has over 30,000 members or something at this point. And then of course there's Reddit. It's a pretty active forum over there as well. And then the final piece of the ecosystem I want to talk about was source code. So freely available through GitHub and can just be of massive, massive assistance as you're developing your game. Perhaps something is going on there where you're not exactly sure why the engine is doing, what it is. You're getting unexpected results. You can download the source code and step through and find out exactly what is going on under the hood. We also accept pull requests. We've incorporated thousands and thousands of those back into the engine from the community. So you can go ahead and submit those. And here's all the information on getting started with source code with links to GitHub. And there's information on how to format and submit those pull requests so you have the best chance of success. All right, and then the final part of the talk, Unreal Indies. So we covered the engine and the company itself, and now we're going to talk about what Unreal Indies is, which is our initiative demonstrating our commitment to developers, to developers everywhere. So indie developers, hobbyists, small studios all over the world. If that description fits you, but and let's say you need to talk to somebody at Epic, but you don't have a contact or you don't know who to reach out to, you can reach out to us on the evangelism team. We run this page and we can offer you guidance, advice, and we can make connections that you need. There are two components, the portal and also the indie@unrealengine.com alias. So as part of this talk, you've seen some of the different resources that we offer. What the portal does is collects all of those together and more, and really provides a one-stop shop for all this information that's going to be important to you as an indie developer or a small developer. You know, we have information on the store, mega grants, all of that. And there's also a bunch of information that you might not have considered as well. So the example we like to use is, you know, you're developing your game and perhaps you want to put the Unreal logo at the front. You know, the question is, where do you get those files? You know, what are the rules attached to using that? So there's a link on the portal that gives you all of that information. Or, you know, if you're providing your ship date, and maybe your Kickstarter is about to hit its funding target, and suddenly you have to consider reporting royalties. You know, who do you talk to about that? How do you even do that? That information is also on the portal there. The portal's been live for several months, and it will continue to grow in the coming weeks. And then we also have the contact address there. You can feel free to use that to reach out to us. For example, you know, you've gone through the portal, you've looked at all the resources there, but perhaps you have a question that just hasn't been answered. By using this email, the evangelism team is on the other end of it. We can go ahead and get you a response as soon as possible. So for example, like if you have a project and, you know, it's amassed this, you know, swell of support and you may have a sizable hit on your hands. Suddenly that 5% royalty from the EULA is looking like it's going to be a lot of money that you're going to have to pay back to Epic. You know, or maybe you need some developer support beyond the community-driven answer hub and forums. You know, at that point, if those two conditions are what you're looking at, then it sounds like you need to start discussing custom licensing. And so we can, if you reach out to us and make us aware, we can put you in touch with the team that handles custom licensing. You can get those conversations started for you. Or, you know, maybe you just want to know when we're going to be coming to town and providing demonstrations. You know, we can drop by your user group. You can always hit us up at this email as well, and we can set something up for you. All right, so that pretty much concludes the talk for today. We talked about, from the very beginning of the company, how we've been enabling creators and how we have the Unreal ecosystem, this large collection of resources and initiatives that will help you on your development path. And we talked about Unreal Indies as well, which is that dedicated channel for small developers all over the world. So I hope you found that useful and interesting, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was fantastic. So we have some questions for you. Yes. I trust that's okay. So we've had some comments as well from Ronaldo saying it's good to see how much you're supporting Blender. And also Daniel Partisto saying, you know, thank you for the insights. We've also, I'll start with the question. So what's the most, this is an anonymous attendee, so people feeling a little bit shy this morning. What's the most common mistake you see new developers making?
Oh gosh, let me think about that for a moment. You know, actually, the first thing that comes to mind when, and I'm talking about developers that are new to Unreal Engine, you know, I mentioned Blueprint is part of Unreal Engine 4, how that's really, that feature set, that visual scripting language is so important to the engine. One of the questions we get is, you know, well, do I have to use Blueprint for the entirety of the project? Do I have to use C++, or can I use C++ entirely? Like, what's the right balance there? And really, it depends on the size of the team, the scope of the project, and, you know, really the makeup of the team as well. And I guess on a sort of related note as well, teams that come to UE4 that have traditionally not opened up some of the interactivity set portions of game development, like scripting, what have you, to members of the team that aren't programmers, you know, they will. We've seen teams that have neglected to use Blueprint, which is fine. Again, you can create entire games in C++, but really you're not getting the most bang for your buck out of the engine if you're not leveraging Blueprint. Like, it really does enable developers to handle some of the, quite honestly, some of the tasks that a programmer might think is mundane, right? Like, you know, do you really want to be burning cycles of a programmer, you know, some of the more expensive members of the team on doing things like, you know, opening doors or, you know, a power-up pickup or something like that. You know, you can put that back in the hands of a designer. So yeah, I would say maybe not leveraging Blueprint appropriately starting off.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So the next question we've got is, how has the Corona incident affected your numbers, particularly on the store?
That is a good one. So I'm actually not familiar with the day-to-day of the store and how we've been performing, particularly during coronavirus. Obviously, it's affected the game industry in a dramatic way. You know, I think across the industry, numbers are up in general with gaming, so I wouldn't be surprised to hear that. But yeah, I don't have specific insight into that, I'm afraid.
No, but I mean, in terms of general development, presumably the benefit of the fact we are all digital medium first anyway does mean for developers at least the ability to collaborate and share and engage together is already in place.
Oh,
so
yeah,
really that's been helpful.
Yeah, so I thought the question was in reference specifically to the store.
No, it's more general. I mean, the store was one aspect, but
oh, okay,
it was.
Yeah. So for us personally at Epic, you know, certain teams, it's a worldwide company, right? We have a lot of offices all over the place, and you know, we do have a lot of those structures in place to facilitate communication. So for a good portion of the company, it's almost kind of business as usual. You know, my team, for example, is spread across the U.S. and Brazil and Ecuador and, you know, all of Latin America there. So, you know, our team in particular is used to working this way. You know, the rendering team is also similarly distributed. So yeah, it's but as other members of the company that aren't used to working in that fashion come online, you know, there's kind of that quiet period for the initial week, I think, as everyone got started and you know, got their webcams in place and all that good stuff. But it wasn't until like the second week that everyone really, you know, kind of came back to life and we started developing. Yeah, it's been challenging, but I think we're making the best of it.
I think that sums up everybody. Now we've only got a minute left, really, so I've got like 3 questions, but essentially they come down to what is the sort of the kind of content that people are looking for upcoming, particularly given the kind of content you've got in the Epic Store already. And if I've already got a game on, say, Unity, why should we move to you guys?
Yeah, so we get that question quite a bit, actually. You know, why switch from Unity to Unreal? I'll answer that part of the question. No, sorry, did I say that correct? Switch from Unity to Unreal.
As a former Unity guy, I get it.
Yeah. So you know, that's a massive topic to cover. You know, again, I'll point to just a few of the obvious ones. You know, availability of source code is the big one for our developers. You know, all of the different things that we talked about today with the Unreal ecosystem. You know, Epic really is here to enable developers, to enable creators to make their projects. You know, again, I'll reference Fortnite. We've had a lot of success with Fortnite, and we iterate on it very rapidly. Again, like all of the tech that goes into that, we share with everyone. So, you know, everything that makes Fortnite as successful as it is, all developers get access to that as well. You know, we've been making games for a long time ourselves, so we feel like we have a pretty good idea of the types of tools and technology that needs to be built. So that's, I'd say, another big factor in that.
Yeah, I'd attest that. I think I first met Mark Rain back in '98 when we were hosting Unreal Tournament on a dial-up modem platform called Wireplay. That's how long I've been aware of you guys. On that note, I'm going to say thank you very much, Alan. That was fantastic. Hopefully everybody enjoyed that, and we're going to ask Anna to come up and join us.